Know this. Introducing the original Blood Clot podcast, not players. Soothing semantic. Special dedication. All the way from New York. Boom. Yeah, man. SWOT semantic. Yeah, me know. Boom. Soothing semantic. Yeah, me know. Big ups to the man now. Soothing semantic.
On another episode of Soothing Semantics, I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Subscribe, like, share, smash the like button, leave your comments. Happy Sunday, everybody. Joe Rojas, welcome to the show. Such a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure being here, brother. It's good
Yes,
to
sir.
see you. Good to see you again. I'm very happy to see
Again,
you again.
Likewise, man. So Joe Rojas is the CEO of Start, Grow, Manage. Okay. He builds businesses, helps people grow, figure out kind of, what's hindering them from growing their business. And I'm going to give you the floor. I'd like to give you the opportunity to share it with everybody. You're an author as well. So I'm not familiar, haven't read any of your books yet, but I'll definitely drop the links so anyone can purchase them if they'd like to, and we'll go into that as well. So without further ado, Mr. Rojas, take it from here.
Cool. So, I'm Joe, and for those of you out there, and my parents split up when I was 5, and I was born and raised in Harlem and Washington Heights and in New York. And when my parents split up, my mom sent me to Dominican Republic for 5 years. First couple of years were great, but the last 3 years were really terrible. My grandfather passed away, and then I kind of got passed around from family member to family member, and it was just not good. I had some like physical abuse. It was like really,
Oh, wow.
So I called my mom up. I was 10. I said, look, you got 2 choices. Bring me back to New York, or I'm going to run away. Your choice. You pick.
How old were you at this point?
10. I was 10.
Wow.
And she said, okay, I'll bring you back. And she brought me back, but I didn't know that she had been in a car accident and she was going through some real bad mental trauma. She had a brain injury and she was like not good. So,
Oh, wow.
I came back, and for the first month, things were kind of okay. And then we were homeless for the next 6 months, and then for the next couple of months, we found a place to live, and we lived. And, shelters in the 80s were not an option. Because you got killed in shelters. It was not a good thing what happened in shelters in the 80s. We tried it for one night, and it was like, I never want to go back there because I'm going to hell, and so we would sleep in the park or in basements or wherever we could find a spot. And then after a year, I was going to school, but living on the street, and I was like, I need a job. So,
What the hell is that like? You go to school with other kids who have homes, and now you have to.
Yeah, and then you go to their house and you take a shower and you eat and you do whatever you're gonna do.
And their parents all knew?
They didn't know, but it's like, hey, I don't really have a place. Is it kind of like, is it okay if I take a shower over here? Or you came home, really. I had my friend Neil, his mom, he's single mom. She worked, so I would go to their house, right? Just me and Neil. He had the keys. We went in. I took a shower, and we ate, and then I went on my way. She didn't come home till 8 o'clock at night, so she had no idea.
Wow.
And so then I, so interesting, I just thought I had forgotten all about that.
No, what I was thinking is this would have been a great part to put in the beginning. But hey,
that's okay. You can still edit it and put it in.
Technically can still do that, yeah.
Yeah. So then, so all that happened. So then I was like, I need a job. So I did. I got a job at DeSantis Messenger Service loading trucks. I first started off at Big Apple supermarket, bagging groceries. And then I was like, I'm not going to make any money doing this. I need a real job. So I talked to some friends.
So hold on, I know what you needed. You're like, I need a real job. And at the time you had a full head of hair, but you shaved it just for the hell of it. And you had 2 big brooms and you said, that's right, baby. Mr. Clean, Joe, Mr. Clean Rojas, and you went all around the town. You ended up on Wall Street with big office buildings, and you were
No,
doing all
no,
that.
no, no. None of that happened. None of that happened. What I did is I had a friend
Sounds fun.
who had a van and did deliveries for a place called the Santis Message Service. And I remember I went there the first day. When I was 11, I was like 180 pounds and like 5'8", you know, like my daughter is 11 now and she's 5'8" and 140.
How old are you?
Right. Me, I'm 52. Right. But
No, how tall are you?
I'm 6 feet tall now, but I was like, you know, I was 5'8" and about 140 at the time, right? And 180 at the time. I was a big boy. How
old were you?
11.
You were a huge 11-year-old.
I was a huge 11-year-old, right? Like my daughter is a huge 11-year-old. When I look at my daughter now, it reminds me of me because my daughter's 5'8" and 140. Right? She's huge. She's bigger than her mom. She's 11. She'll be 12 this year.
Dude, bigger than there are guys that, you know, that's.
Dude, she punches you in the chest. You're like done. She punched you in the chest. So that was like, oh, huge. She's got all body. She knows how to throw a punch too. So I go and I get to the counter and I'm like, yeah, I want a job. And, you know, so-and-so sent me and this Anthony's behind the counter and Louis over there. And Anthony says, what's your name? And I say, it's Juan. He says, no, we have a Juan. He says, you got another name? I go, yeah, Jose. He goes, no, we have a Jose. And I go, well, I don't know what to say. He goes, hey, Lou, we still got that guy, Joe? And Ant? Yeah, so yeah, he goes, Lou, we have that guy, Joe? And Lou goes, no, we don't have that guy anymore. He goes, okay, your name is Joe now. That was it. So that's where I got Joe. You know, I'm originally.
So basically, you got this. So Joe technically isn't your name. You're saying?
No, Joe's not my name. You know, so then I worked there for 4 years, and after I left there, I couldn't go back to Juan because nobody would call me Juan because everybody had been calling me Joe for 4 years, right? So that was it. It was like, your name is Joe now. I was like, okay, I'm Joe.
So technically, you're Juan. Not technically, your name is Juan.
No, my name is Juan. My driver's license is Juan Rojas.
So why do you go by Joe now?
Because it stuck and that was it. I couldn't get it off. Like I tried to get it off a bunch of times. I couldn't get any of my friends. I couldn't convince any of my friends right now to call me Juan. No matter how hard I try. Forget about it. Nobody's going to call me Juan.
Joe is easier. Joe, it's one syllable. It's easier.
It's like that, right? So then I started working for those guys. I became a bike messenger. I worked there for about 4 years. You know, I made a whole ton of money as a bike messenger. And then I got an opportunity to start bouncing when I turned like 16, 17. I was almost 17. I was like 16
you were 220 pounds raw muscle.
Yeah, no, I was like 240. I wasn't raw muscle. I was a big boy. But I was like 240. Yeah, I was 240, 250. Then I went up to like 300 pounds. I was a big boy, right? And then I started, when I turned 17, I got an opportunity to really, I hired a couple guys and had them bounce. And I charged twice the money and paid them. And so I ended up with 25 guys working for me. So I had 25 bouncers working for me.
How old are you at the time?
That was my first business. I was 17. I was making
you did it at 17.
Yeah, I was making a ton of cash. It was great, but I was spending it all because I was dumb and I didn't know anything about business. All I knew was like I had a lot of money and there was girls and parties and limos and right. Booze and whatever I wanted, right? So it was good. And then so I did that for a bit. And then I got shot at and I got stabbed once and I was like, yeah, I should probably do this professionally. So I got my GD and I went in the army.
How did you get shot at and how'd you get stabbed? I'm really curious.
Well, I didn't get shot. I got shot at a couple of times, because I'd be bouncing and, I had bouncers, but I was bouncing too. I liked the action. Right. Mm-hmm. So I had a couple of guys come back and try to shoot at me and, I ducked inside and stuff like that. And I got slashed really at there was this topless club that I did on 38th Street. And I took this guy out, and I remember I pushed him, like I had him outside the thing, and I pushed him, and I saw him start swinging, and I backed up like this, and he cut through the jacket. He had a box cutter, and he cut through the jacket, he cut through everything, and caught me a little bit over here. Wasn't anything bad, but after that, I was 19, 18 and a half when that happened. And after that, I kind of started reevaluating, like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Right. Because I had, and then there's another incident that I had where I actually got stabbed down here. That was earlier. But
so how'd that happen? Where'd you get stabbed?
Yeah, I brought the guy outside, and same deal. He pulled out a knife and just stabbed me in the leg over here, my thigh. And I remember just being so pissed off. I tuned that guy up really bad, broke his clavicle. It was, not my proudest moment, but
But the knife was just stuck in there.
It was sticking out of my leg. But the reason why I was mad is because I had a $200 pair of silk pants on in olive green.
Those were like nice pants. You were happy to go out in those pants, and he screwed it up for you. Yeah,
they were like MC Hammer pants, right? Because I was it was back in the 80s. So I had like silk MC Hammer pants, and he put a knife in them. Those were ruined forever.
You couldn't get new ones?
Well, I got new ones, but that pair was ruined forever. I just bought them 3 days ago. I was so pissed.
It's so funny, Joe, because one, talking to you over a Zoom, you seem like such a nice, and I'm not saying you weren't even at that point, but all of this that you're telling me,
I was
from the perspective of this small little camera angle, I can't see all that. You don't even look like you're 6 feet tall for some reason. But
it is the number one thing that I get when I meet people is like, I didn't know you were so tall.
Yeah. I think it's also like a friendliness. You just have such a friendly demeanor. People don't necessarily think you're taller.
Yeah,
that could be the thing.
It's so funny. If you look at pictures, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see me standing next to other people, and it's like I'm the big guy.
Yeah, it's funny.
Right. So then all that happened, right? And I went in the Army, and then I got all my technical training in the Army. I did 2 years regular Army, came out of school, came out, tried a bunch of civilian jobs, didn't like it, applied for a job at Department of Defense, worked for the DoD for 4 years, fixing night vision thermal viewers for the 10th Mountain and for all the 3-letter agencies. And then I got poached by a biomedical engineering company. I did that for a couple of years. And I got poached by an IT company. I did that for a year. And then I opened my own IT company. And then I sucked at business, man. I was really good at IT. I was terrible at business. Terrible. Right. So I took all the money that I had saved and everything and spent it all. And I had nothing to show for it at the end. I was living on somebody's couch. And then
how old were you at the time? How old were you at this point?
God, I had been. When was that? So about 27.
Around my age right now.
Yeah, about 27. And I was broke, right? And so it took me about 3 years to get my head out of my ass. But once I did, all together, right? But once I figured it out, and I figured out how to sell and how to be a business owner, I took a company that was doing about $250,000 a year, making me no money because I was paying the staff, and turned it into $1 million company and sold it, and did it a second time and sold that, and did it a third time and sold that, and did it a fourth time. The fourth time I stuck around, grew a company to about 4 or 5 million, and had some kids, chilled out, built a machine where I was working like 30 hours a week. I was work from home Monday through Thursday and went into the office on Fridays. It was good. It was a good run. And I did that for a bit. And then I started helping my clients with their businesses, right? So I was an IT company, but I was like, hey, listen, I did some stuff to grow my business. And I started writing all this stuff down, and I ended up with what's in this book, which is How Entrepreneurs Thrive, right? And so then once I finished that bad boy, I started really getting into it. And I talked to my partner, I had a business partner, and I said, hey, listen, I really want to open a consulting piece for this. And he's like, oh, I'm getting too old. I really don't want to do that. I said, well, great, buy me out. And he did. He bought me out of the IT concern. And then I opened this business. And then, I sucked at it for a while because it was a career change and I had no idea how to get really focused. And then after a couple of years, I figured it out and I started focusing on IT companies because that's what I knew how to grow really well. And we did that for a bit. And now we're helping really IT companies and solopreneurs. Like we're working with solopreneurs. Now I've ended up with oddly enough, right now we have a bunch of general contractors and architects also, right? But really our focus has always been IT and solos, people that are by themselves. So that's how we got here. That's the whole story from beginning to end. 3 kids later, I have one that's 29, I have one that's 12, and one that's 2 marriages, of course, right? So
well, the 29-year-old must be 6'7", 450 pounds.
Yeah, no, she's about 130 and 5'8".
Wow, it's just you got some tall kids. I'm 5'10", so I'm not short. I'm not tall, but I'm close, a couple of inches off from you. But I'm. What am I like? I'm fluctuating. I'm probably like 196.
Yeah, I'm 198 now, which is like the lowest I've been in probably 20 years. At one point I was 310.
Damn. So I've never hit. This is the heaviest I've ever been, but it's mostly muscle. I can say that.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's the thing. This is an incredible story, man. I have quite a story myself. People who've been watching my podcast for a while know about it, and we've spoken about it.
Tell me a little bit about it. No, we talked a little bit about it, but not.
You didn't hear too much of it?
A little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, to make a long story short, I grew up with my mother's mother, my grandmother from my mother's side. My mother had a lot of issues growing up. I don't know about drugs. My grandmother never really spoke about it. She claimed she didn't really know, but I felt like it just was a touchy subject for her. My grandmother now has dementia. It's not too severe, but she can't really discuss these things to the way she used to be able to talk about them. So this happened about 1.5 years ago after her knee replacement. It couldn't be the anesthesia set it on, but she's now in one of these nursing homes, and thank God it's a good facility and all that. She's in New York, so I went to visit her recently. So anyhow, she raised me from the time I was 1.5 years old. She gained full custody from my mother. My mother couldn't raise me on her own. She just wasn't capable. So I was in foster care for the first 1.5 years. She won full custody, was living with her ever since. My father was never in the picture. My parents never got married. It was one of those one and done kind of things. And I had a great childhood. We didn't have money. Definitely wasn't easy in that regard. I had to really figure things out on my own, but my grandmother was an excellent parent. She's always there for me, always gave me as much attention as I needed, was very supportive, didn't coddle me, it was tough with me, but really loving parent. I was very lucky in that sense. And didn't have siblings. I had an uncle who had some issues, so he kind of lived with us for most of my childhood. So he was kind of like my big brother in a way. So that was all right. And my mom passed away about 1.5 years ago.
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, she was found dead in a hotel room. We don't know how. We don't really know what happened. But so that was that. So the first time I ever, I guess you can say, met her was when I buried her. And an important part of this story is that some of my closest friends came to the burial, and there's a Jewish tradition where people at the funeral take shovels and dig the dirt over the grave, and not the people who lost their loved ones, but other people do it. So they never met her. I never met her, but they went and they took the shovels without a single complaint and went ahead and did that. And I looked at all of them as they were doing it, and I said, they don't even know her. never met the woman, and they're doing this no problem, you know, and that really stuck out to me. I'm never going to forget that. And I told them that. I thanked them and I said, I love you guys. I'll never forget that. And so recently I met some relatives on my father's side because I took a DNA test, and a cousin took the same DNA test and found me. So last time I was in New York a few weeks ago, I went to his parents, my uncle and aunt. We all had dinner together. We had a great time. I had a blast with them. Such fun people. Then I met two more cousins they live in Staten Island. So I met two more of them, and we went out to a bar, had a blast, stayed out till like 4 or 5 in the morning, had a great time. So now we're talking, we're in touch, and hopefully I'm going to meet some more of the family soon, but it's really cool. And the father, we pretty much narrowed it down to 2 guys. So the uncle and aunt that I met, the uncle is directly related to me. So he has 1 sister and 2 other brothers. So one of those 2 brothers is my dad. So the way I can figure out who it is if I take a different DNA test, one of the different companies. A bunch of my other cousins took it with that test specifically. Either one of those guys who maybe my father hasn't taken them, but I can figure out which one's the father through them.
Through the familial, whoever's your brother.
Correct. Sister, correct.
Or so sister, that's how you're going to
So we pretty much figured out who it is. My uncle and aunt is pretty certain of who it is, but we don't have a guarantee yet. So honestly, I'm just slacking with this. I just have to go and take the DNA test, and we'll go do it. So I have to go and do it. So that's very exciting. But yeah, I mean, grew up in Jewish communities. Definitely, we didn't have money, but there were neighbors and friends of my grandmother who helped us out and helped put me through school. My grandmother couldn't have done it on her own, but she worked very hard, and she had her 9 to 5, but you know, she wasn't an entrepreneur of any sort. It wasn't really her thing, but she made ends meet. We always had food, always had clean clothes. Wasn't showing up to school in ripped clothing. My grandmother always made sure I would look presentable, and she always tried her best to make me feel like I was like all the other kids, you know. And thank God I was a popular kid. I always had friends. You know, I wasn't bullied. But I think that's largely because my grandmother didn't raise no bitch. You know what I'm saying? No, but she did it. She when I fell on the ground when I was playing with my friends and I cut my leg, she wasn't sitting there coddling me. She said, "Go wash it off, put a Band-Aid on it, or whatever." You know, that was it.
Yeah. See, my grandmother, when I was in the Dominican Republic, picked me up and beat the crap out of me if I fell down. That'll learn you to fall down.
My grandmother didn't believe
you never wanted to fall. You never wanted to fall down around my grandmother, man, because she would beat the crap out of you if you fell down around her. You ruined your pants.
I don't really get that. I don't understand that, to be honest. You know, she never had to hit me. She yelled so damn loud, and she followed through with everything she said she was going to do. So I was afraid of her because she was a small woman. She still thank God she's still alive. She still is a small woman. 4'11", you know, not menacing physically. I mean, most women aren't menacing physically, but
I don't know. My grandmother was 6'2", dude.
Holy shit! Different story. You got a big family, man. Damn. Holy shit, Amazonian.
I'm a pipsqueak compared to the rest. My mom was small. My mom was like maybe 5 feet tall,
okay,
or 5'2", something like that. But my grandmother was 6'2", my grandfather was 6'3", and all of my grandmother's other kids were all over 6'1". Everybody, right, except for my mother. My mother was
right, but you 6 feet doesn't make you a pipsqueak. You're an inch or two off. I mean, not a big deal. But I get what you're saying. So, yeah, I mean, everything was good, but you know, not easy. You know, my other friends definitely had it. Certain things were a lot easier. They went on like vacations, and they had this and that. They had their parents driving them around everywhere. I had to take, you know, cab, you know, wherever. I had to walk places, take buses, yada yada. But listen, in the grand scheme of things, I didn't have anything in my life that was particularly traumatic. I was never abused in any way. I had a lot of friends. I had a loving parent. There's a lot of things I'm very lucky and fortunate about, but at the same time, I had, compared to your average American dude, I definitely had it tough. You know, I had to work since I was little and all that. So It's all perspective. I mean, to some people, my life was extremely difficult. To other people, my life was an absolute breeze. It's all perspective. So that's why I don't participate in all this nonsense of.
Well, you can't, because everybody has whatever they've got, and that's all you got to get.
You had a hell of a childhood, my friend.
No, man, it was perfect. Everything is perfect.
Yeah, I hear you.
You get to be who you are as a function of what happened and who you chose to be about.
100%.
So I'm happy that it happened exactly the way it happened. If it had happened any other way, I'd probably be a prick.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah, I agree. What I really like, because you mentioned, you in so many words, you take your circumstance and do as you need to do with it. So you can either decide to do, for instance, this is an example I love this example. You have a drunk father, you have an alcoholic father, and you have two sons. One son says, I became an alcoholic because of my alcoholic father. The other son says, I made sure to never become an alcoholic because of my alcoholic father. And essentially, that is the way of the world. You take your circumstance and choose to either do A with it or B with it. Period. Point blank, period.
It's all choice, though. Nothing ever happens to you.
It happens for you.
You get to choose. Nothing happens to you. You get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people live their life like it's happenstance. Oh, I'm an alcoholic because my dad's an alcoholic. No, you're an alcoholic because you choose to be an alcoholic. You have a choice. You cannot do that. It's going to be hard, but you can make a choice at any point in your life. Doesn't matter how old, how young you are, you can choose.
Reminds me when I was in Vegas and I started literally having this pep talk with a hooker. And mind you, I never was the type to pay for those things. And she just had this very innocent girl next door nature. And I just decided to sit with her in one of the hallway of my hotel and sitting there giving her this. I just don't understand why you do this sort of thing. And my friends see me doing it. They see me doing that and they're like, this is literally a classic. You're the only friend of ours we know that would sit there and have a deep, meaningful conversation with a hooker. And I'm like, I don't know. She just looks like she's got she could live a better life. And they're just, and I really believe that, it's like, I'm the guy that will sit there and do that, and I think it's a great thing. I don't think it did anything for her, but you never know who it can impact.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. You have the conversation. You keep having those conversations. Don't stop, because you never know the conversation that's going to alter somebody's life forever.
100%. And then this is why I love the podcast, because I hope that anything that I can give to people that is valuable, and especially if it's something on their mind that they need to hear, and I'm the one they finally heard it from and it kicks them in the ass, great. So I agree with you. These things are never
anything you want to give your people. We have a thing called the irresistible value statement. We have a couple of different giveaways that we could give to people that they can use to craft their pitch or stuff like that. They're redoing the website this weekend, but I can send you links after if you want to post them.
Sure. Yeah. And just any links you want.
Okay.
Please let me know so I can post it in the beginning and end of the episode. So this will be.
So I'll send you that. We have a link that's really great. The irresistible value statement. The page is getting worked on this weekend. If not, I would send you that, but that's a really great page for them to go and get some value for themselves. I work with business owners who are experts at what they do, but not at building businesses. And they're fed up of not making the amount of money that they wanted to make. You know how when you start your business, you leave your place and you want to really, you leave your job and you want to take it to the next level. You want to grow, you want to, and then you end up working more hours and making less money. And you're like, what's going on? And what's missing is having, getting really narrow about the problem that you solve and who you solve it for. And what's missing is really having a way to deliver that solution over and over again to that group of people and do it consistently, and having a process for doing it effectively over and over again. And that's what we do. We help organizations do that. So I think that's the gist of what we do.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's very common for people to know the business they're in, meaning they may even be very skilled in the business, but then when it comes to the organization of the business or financial knowledge, being disciplined in how you spend your money, understanding where everything needs to be allocated, all these things. That's where I think a lot of people start to really have difficulty in business.
Yeah. I'm working with a general contractor now. Like I started off as a carpenter, master carpenter, brilliant. Some of the most beautiful woodwork you've ever seen in your life, right? And then grew into a general contractor. Did about $4.5 million last year, and is positioned this year to do $12 million with the work that we've done with them, right? But no budget, no credit line, single bank account. So no separate account for taxes, no separate account for operations. So it's a mess, right? Big receivable. Like, so we've slowly been putting systems in place to get all that stuff under control, which is what's positioned him for this accelerated growth and the ability to take on clients in a time right now where contractors, you have to wait 2 years to work with a contractor because they're just so busy right now. It's so crazy right now. The market is so crazy right now. People are buying everything and they want it fixed now. So it's exactly what you were talking about, Rafi, which is people are experts, brilliant at what they do. But growing a business, that's not the thing that they learned, right? And so how do you then shift so that you can start doing those things?
That does really speak to me. And then what really speaks to me is the idea that people think they can do everything on their own, and although I'm a young guy and I'm young in both my real estate and podcast careers, I notice more and more and more that you need a team and you need support and you need to be willing to ask for help. You can't be too prideful to ask for help. And when I see people just trying to micromanage and do everything on their own, and they think that delegating tasks to others is too difficult because they can't trust someone else to do the work. Yeah. Or they feel like that person or those people won't have the same passion or drive as they do. Well, the likelihood is they probably won't because it's not their baby.
100%. They will not have the same passion.
It's not theirs. Exactly. No. The beauty is finding somebody, and this is what I think, and I really want to hear your take on this, is if you're going to hire people and delegate tasks, you need to find somebody who loves to do that thing. And you give them true, real incentives to do that thing. Because at the end of the day, they're building their dream. They're building your dream. However, if they have a drive to get to a certain place, especially if they join when the company's newer and there really is potential, they might not necessarily care to be at the top and to take on all of those risks and all the overhead and all the potential downside. But they get to come in and although they're building your dream, they can still build theirs as well simultaneously. So for instance, with my podcast, my editor loves doing it. He enjoys editing. Is he building a podcast brand? Is it going to make him millions? No. If my podcast gets very, very large, which I plan on making it, he'll do quite well. I mean, he'll do very well considering he's in Pakistan. He's not an American. He's not in a first world country. He's already making nice money, but in the future, going forward, he can do quite well if he sticks it out, and if I stick it out. So that's what I think. And then real quick, just hold that thought, and then I also liked what you mentioned in terms of people want everything right away. That couldn't be more true.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of hiring, my take on it is you have to hire for values. So what happens is when you're a tiny little company, you're like, oh, I don't need core values. I don't need a vision. I'm a 2-person operation. I'm a 1-person operation. What do I need that for? Well, you need that because if you don't hire for values, after 5 people, the whole thing starts to fall apart because you'll hire 3 or 4 people. In the beginning, you're hiring them because you like that person and you don't know what it is about them that you like. And what you like about them is that your values drive. You haven't defined what the values are, but you can hear it in your conversation with them, right? But once you get past 5 people, what happens is you're not paying that much attention anymore, whether it jives or not. You just need a job done. So now you're just hiring to get this job done. And when you start hiring like that, you could hire somebody that's inconsistent with the values. Now you built this great team of 4 or 5 people, and then people start leaving, and you're like, why are the people leaving? It's because the new person that you brought in is inconsistent with the values. They might be a great producer, but they're stepping on everybody else to do it. And when that happens, you break the system, right? So part of being able to get consistent, repeatable results is, one, your hiring process has to be really great. You have to hire people consistent with the values that you're doing first for values, and then you can train them on the stuff, right? So the things that they're going to do, they might not be great at it. They might be okay. But the most important things, like you might have somebody who's a superstar at doing that. Let's take the case of a carpenter, for example. You might have a carpenter who's a superstar, and you have a carpenter that's okay. But the one that's a superstar is a real jerk. And the one that's okay is exactly a match for your values. Hire this one and train him to be a superstar, right? So how do you do that? We call it PPP, right? Process. 80% of it is process. So you have to create a process for how you're going to train them. What does their job look like? Do they have all the right things that they're going to need? What are the processes in their job? What is the beginning, middle, end of the process, right? What's the triggering action for that process? And then how do you follow up after the process is complete to make sure that they're doing great work? Then there's a person themselves. They have CAD, the capacity, ability, and desire to do the thing that you want them to do, right? Are they somebody who's mindful or somebody who's mindless? If they're mindless, they're the wrong person for that position, unless you need somebody who's just pressing a button every day. And then mindless is okay.
Right.
But mostly you need somebody who's mindful, right? That is really paying attention to what they're doing and how they communicate and all that stuff. So that's 80% is the process.
And it's funny though, because
Yeah.
real quick to interject, most 9-to-5ers, I mean, we make memes about these things, are totally uninvolved. All
Yeah.
their ways to clock in and clock out, they're playing solitaire, snood, they're sitting on the toilet, not even using the bathroom. They throw the seat down, sit on top of it, text whoever. It's sad how Joe Rogan talked about this, how people will run to the bathroom at their job just to avoid having to do something that they're probably not even doing, but they can avoid a boss yelling over them.
Yeah.
So they just kill
But
time
that
sitting in the bathroom.
only happens in places where there's a boss yelling over them. See, when the culture is such that people are inspired to actually be there, they're
100%.
grinding, they're working,
100%.
they're doing their thing. So whenever you have somebody that's sitting on the toilets that's sending memes, and it has nothing to do with that person, it's the boss. They have a bad boss. There's no bad teams. There's bad leaders.
I completely agree. Completely agree. Because they're also potentially hiring the wrong people. They don't have the right systems. They're not guiding them correctly. They're not giving them the right incentives.
Right.
They're not leading by example. I mean, it's bad natures. They're rude. They're bitter. They're negative. And people don't want to come into work. They're like, I need this paycheck. I got to put food on the table, but I hate this thing. And you have to see the boss every day, and he or she is a miserable.
Yeah, but the reason why they're miserable, if they're not the owner and they're miserable, the reason why they're miserable is the same reason that person is miserable. They have a bad boss.
Totally.
See, it all flows. You never see a company with a great CEO that's really conscientious and really mindful and really plugged in, and a crappy team of people that is terrible and horrible and falling
Totally.
apart. Now, when you see a company with a great CEO that's really all about it, you see a great team that's really all about it. When you see a CEO that's a gotcha manager, see, you're doing it wrong. Oh, I got you again. Oh, there you are. Oh, there you are on the toilet. Hey, I see you. Right? When you got that guy yelling at you and screaming at you, yeah, you're miserable. But when you have the CEO that, sees you in the hallway and says, hey, Rafi, come here. I just wanted to tell you, you did an amazing job on that project last week. Holy moly. Everybody was so impressed. Thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. What are you going to do?
You're going to be thrilled to work, and you're going to want to go the extra mile for that person as well.
All day long.
I think, you know what I think? So much of this is emotional intelligence. It really is EQ.
Well, it is, but you have to have the PPP, right? So if you have to have the process, you don't have the process, it's not going to work. You have to have the person. The person has to be mindful. They have to have the capacity, ability, and desire. And you have to have the position. It has to be clearly defined. They have to have authority to do the things that they're supposed to do. They can't go, why that middleware boss that you were talking about that is such a miserable curmudgeon? You know why that person is a miserable curmudgeon? Because they make a decision and then their employee goes to the boss, and then the boss comes to them and is like, oh, so-and-so came to me. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing it this way. And they don't have the authority. If you're going to put somebody in a position, you have to give them the authority to make decisions. They need to be able to do the things. They have to have the power to give orders, make decisions, and enforce compliance. Right? And they have to be accountable, which means that you need to be able to hold their feet to the fire, and they need to be responsible for the actions they take. If something goes horribly wrong, it's on them. So they have to have that accountability, and they have to have rank. There has to be a position in the company where they fit, people that report to them, and people they report to.
A hierarchy of sorts.
If you don't put those three things in, you're going to have that same environment that you were talking about. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-person organization, a 2-person organization, or a 5,000 or 500,000 person organization. Without that structure, you will fail.
100%. Hold on. I'm just waiting for my rocket ship washing machine to slow down. I think it just finished. Thank God for the mute option. So this way they don't hear Elon Musk going to Mars on my side of the, it's like, it's great. Anyhow, what a blessing, man. I don't have to clean my own laundry in some pot outside my house, So wonderful. People don't appreciate the little things.
I appreciate all of it, man.
Oh, it's great. And that gaming chair is a serious gaming chair you got there. It's great. Yes, Mr. Clean. It's a great gaming chair. So yes,
I got to shave it again today.
Looks pretty crisp. The light is shining off of it. It's really. I should use the top of your head as my podcast lighting.
It will work here.
Yeah,
I'll save your eyes a little bit. Hold on.
See, it's a good thing you're not Jada, so I don't get slapped in the face. It's just one after the other. Anyhow, I haven't run a company like you have, so these are just more of my perceptions. I have an editor for my podcast and a what's called transaction coordinator, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but who some people in watching the episode might not be. And essentially that he's somebody that handles my paperwork from contract to close. So I submit the offers if I'm on the buyer side. And once we're in contract, he handles the rest. So obviously I still need to be part of the transaction, but in terms of paperwork itself and scheduling, he takes care of it. So that is a night and day difference. It gives me the time to go and do what I need to do. I don't really have an issue with micromanaging. I do wish he was a little bit faster. I'm a New Yorker. I want things fast right now, not that.
So then you have to define what the process looks like. It has to be a clearly defined process that he follows every single time that has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Well, here's the thing. Here's
Yeah.
the not the issue, but the reason why I don't really have a complaint with it is because he doesn't only work for me, and I'm not paying him a lot of money. It's
Oh, that's different.
it's $3.95 a transaction, and the transaction can take a month to close. So if I'm hiring my own exclusive assistant, then I'm going to have certain expectations. I still have certain expectations, but I understand where we're holding. So being that he works with so many other realtors and he's not getting paid a lot of money to do this, I can't have certain expectations of him. At the end of the day, he's been doing this a lot longer than I've been in real estate. He knows a lot of things I don't know, and therefore it's definitely worth the money and everything. I'm open to maybe checking out another transaction coordinator and seeing how she does in comparison. But once I'm in a position where I can hire full-time assistants that I'm paying on salary that are my exclusive assistants, then the game changes. So that's really where I'm going with that. But I totally hear what you're saying in terms of having to give people who are, say, managers or have positions of power that really are important. They aren't the boss, they aren't the CEO, but they have a president, vice president. They do need to be held accountable, but also should be given the ability to make powerful decisions. I totally agree without a doubt. Because otherwise, what are they there for? If you're the boss, but you're not really giving them any autonomy, then I don't think they're going to take their job very seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody should have the ability to make some decision. If you own a restaurant and you have waiters, you should give them the power to make the decision who they want to give free dessert to.
Right, or flip somebody off if they're not treating you.
But who they need to be able to make a decision about something. They do that, oh, I'm going to comp this. If you're in a high-end place, you want to be able to do something like that. Right. So it's everywhere. It doesn't matter. You need to give people authority if you're going to give them a job to do some things.
Without a doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because if not, it's just micromanagement. If somebody doesn't have authority to make a decision on their own, you're just a micromanager. And the business will not work without you, which is what we see mostly. Is that if we take that entrepreneur out of the business falls apart. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to pull the entrepreneur out of the business and nobody notices.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
how we know we did our job.
Yeah, I mean, can you totally pull them out of it and no one notices?
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's an incredible place to be. I mean, dude, I want to build a real estate business that has that. I do enjoy selling real estate, but at the same time, to go on a vacation, and I haven't been on one in a very long time, and I honestly won't be going on one in a little while until I really get to a certain level. But to be able to go on a vacation and not have to take all these calls, I mean, God, that is something else. I'm
working with an IT company. I started working with them in 2018. In 2018, the owner had not taken a vacation in 6 years. He was at about $1 million with 5 people in the company. And I said, look, it's going to be a year of hard work. And then after that, you're going to be in a much better position. Last year, he took a 3-week vacation to Punta Cana, didn't get a single call from his office. He has 22 employees. Company ran. His clients didn't know he was on vacation. Nobody knew he was on vacation unless they sent him an email. And they got the autoresponder that says, hey, I'm not around. Call this person.
3 weeks, nobody knew, everything went fine.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's so amazing. Your company is making money and you're chilling, relaxing with your family, doing your thing. Your assistants everything's delegated. They're handling it. They know what they need to do. They're well compensated. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what life is all about.
But to do that, you have to have a system and a process.
Yep.
Right? Because if everything is dependent on you, it won't work. Can't do it. Right.
Nope.
And so that's what I see is missing out there. People don't understand what are the things that need to happen for me to be able to do that. Right. And there's really you want to build a business machine, you have to have 5 things. You have to have a defined target market. You have to know really who is your customer. What is it that you're doing for them? Even if you're doing real estate, right? If you're doing real estate, who do you work with? I work with young professionals that are looking to buy their first home. I work with, people that are looking to retire and have the home of their dreams. I'm working with, you got to pick someone that you work with all the time. If other people come, doesn't mean you're not going to sell them a house, but who you're going after is always that same person. I'm looking for left-handed golfers that only want homes in Atlanta. Like you have to really figure it out. And then what is the problem that you solve for them, right? In the case of the empty nester, they may be looking to downsize. In the case of the professional, they may be looking for a showpiece, right? They want their home to be a showpiece that they can use to have, business gatherings as well as live a great life. So it all depends. And then you have to have a program for solving their problem, a conversation, a process that you take them through that makes them feel special, that makes them feel like this is the thing for you. You need repeatable sales, you need repeatable marketing, you need repeatable delivery. You have those 5 things, okay? You're going to have a business machine. You're going to have a business machine.
Yeah. It's what do you think stops people from being able to put the systems and process together? The 5 things you mentioned, what do you think makes it so hard for them?
That's a great question, right? Because it's what do you need to have a business machine?
Because so many people, this is a cliche statement. People hear this all the time. 90% of business, 80-something% of businesses fail. So if those are,
that stat is wrong, by the way. That's not true. It's only about 20% of businesses. The rest of them hang in there and just barely survive at 200,000-300,000 a year, and they last for 10, 20 years and they don't ever make any money. And the person is miserable running them.
Wow.
That's the problem. The problem is that if you're in business, you should be in business to make money. Right? So to answer your question, what do you need to build a machine? You need a vision. You need to understand where it is that you want to go. If you don't have a vision, then all you did is take whatever it was you were doing. Like some people are real estate brokers for a big company. And then they say, you know what, I'm going to be a broker for myself. And all they do is they just create a job for themselves. Right? And now they have a job, but without them, nothing is happening. They haven't built the machine. Right? So you have to have a vision. You have to say, okay, I'm going to have 10 brokers and they're going to do the work and I'm going to facilitate it for them. I'm going to give them an office. I'm going to give them a process. I'm going to show them how to do it. I'm going to have all the steps. I'm going to have all the stuff. You want to be the person managing the office, not the person out there selling. Right? You need a mission. You need to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, but most importantly, why. Why are you doing it? So a mission starts with the why. Why do we do what we do? And then how do we do what we do? And what is it that we do? Or what do we do? And how is it that we do it? Right? So you got to have those components in your mission. You have to have values. If you don't have values, you can't grow. And the reason you can't grow is because you'll keep putting people on your team that are the wrong people. They'll piss off the other people that are on your team that are good people, that are the people that you wanted, and then those people will leave. And then you'll end up with a bad team, and you're like, I don't understand why I can't hire good people. Well, you can't hire good people because you don't have your values defined, and you keep hiring people that are inconsistent with your values. You have values. You just have to define them so you know what questions to ask when you're interviewing people. You need a strategy, right? And so a lot of people don't understand what a strategy is. A strategy has some components. You have to have an objective. You have to know what's the outcome that you want to produce, right? You have to have a competitive advantage. If you don't have a competitive advantage, you have no strategy. And you have to have a scope. You have to know what you will do and what you won't do, and in what vertices are you going to do that. If you don't have a scope to your strategy, then you're like pew 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 pew. Right? So what the scope does is it narrows what you're going to do. The advantage lets people know what is it that you're really great at that they should be coming to you for. And the objective lets you know what the outcome is going to be in a certain period of time. So a specific measurable result. And then the most important thing you have is a plan. If you don't have a plan, you can't get there, right? So those are the 5 things that you need to be able to create a machine, right? And so without those, can't build your machine, right? And then there's what you need to get stuff done, right? You're muted.
By the way, if you want to throw anything out there, curse-wise, I mean, you can, profanities. I'm just saying that you're more than welcome if you need to say shit to get your point across.
That's what you need to.
That's your call. That's your call. But it's we're more than welcome. I want this podcast to be genuine. So
yeah,
feel free.
But we call it. We actually write it in all our documents as stuff.
Do you actually?
We do.
Amazing. That's something you would do. Was this your idea? Was that your idea? Oh, this makes so much sense. Yeah.
It's like what we need to get stuff done, right? So what do you need to get stuff done? You need 3 things. You need accountability, you need a team, and you need tools. Yeah. And that's what we help our clients with. That's the only 3 things that we do. But so we bring accountability, we bring a team to you and help you build the team, and we give you all the tools. You shouldn't have to reinvent every single time that you're going to do something, right? So we use traditional business tools like the business model canvas, SWOT analysis, a strategy matrix, the OAN model, so that we have the objective, the advantage, and OAS model, the objective, advantage, and the scope, right? So that's really it. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're using traditional tools that have been, being taught forever. The difference, our spin is that we're human centric, right? So what we say that matters is you have to build a human centric business. It cannot be an investor centric business. It really has to be a human-centric business, right? So when you're building a human-centric business, the whole notion of investor first is wrong. Investor first is just not the deal, right? So when you look at a human-centric business, there's some constraints that you have to think about, and the first one is that the business has to make money, right? We start with make money because when people think human-centric money's not important. No, money's important. If you don't have profitable sales, you don't have a business, you're not growing, you're not going anywhere. So yeah, you got to have profitable sales. You have to make money, right? The second thing is really that it puts humans first, right? So when you look at the order of action, the things that need to happen, if you're the owner, you have to put yourself first. You have to take care of yourself. You have to eat right. You have to exercise. You have to really take care of you. Then you have to take care of your family, right? You have to make sure your family's okay. You're making enough money. You're getting paid enough to take care of your people. Then you got to take care of your staff, because your staff are the people who are actually out there building a future for you. Right? So you got to take care of them. Then you got to take care of the customers. And finally, you got to take care of the investors. See, if you take care of all those people first, the investors are always going to win, because the business will be operating from an infinite game rather than a zero-sum game, right? In life, there's 2 kinds of games that you can play. You can play an infinite game, right, where everybody can win. There's a possibility for everybody to win. Or you can play a zero-sum game. For me to win, you got to lose, right? Or for you to win, I got to lose. And what we say is that business is an infinite game, right? The team can win, The customer can win, the investor can win, but it's a longer term play. When you build that kind of business, then everybody rises. And so that the business has to have strong values, mission, vision. It has to know its why, right? It has to inspire rather than manipulate. It has to operate from a perspective of abundance. It has to respect the environment, and it has to be collaborative. Those are the 7 constraints that if you're operating from there, you're going to build a human-centric business. So what we're saying is you've got to bring all this traditional stuff, right? Like the values, vision, mission, the business model canvas, the strategy, you have all those processes, but where you're thinking from is human-centric rather than investor first. When you think from investor first, you've gotten yourself into the zero-sum trap. Man, if you stay there, it's just not a fun place to work.
Well, what's interesting, God, there's so much to unpack. You mentioned the zero-sum game versus the infinity, the infinity game of running a business. Yeah. And my real estate coach talks about this all the time. He says there are agents who are always looking at the short-term gains. They just want to get it. They just want to get a deal done. They don't care how it's done. They don't care if they lie. They don't care as long as the transaction happens. And essentially, they're looking for a win-lose situation. On the flip side, you'll have realtors such as myself. Very, very proud to say this, and quite frankly, I don't know why I shouldn't even be proud to say it because it should be. Should be the norm, but unfortunately, we live in a society where you have to be proud to say things like that. Right, it's crazy. So then on the other side, on the flip side, you have realtors, or really any business owners, but realtors specifically, who understand that everything should have a win-win proposition. You should do your absolute best to procure something to close out a transaction where both sides win. And when you do that, especially with your client and yourself, you not only feel good about doing something virtuous, the person's happy, and the person will now refer you to other people. So down the road, you may have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 clients come out of that. So the idea that you want to play the zero-sum game where only you win, you don't end up winning though.
No, in the long run. Well, not in the long term. You can't. That's why companies go out of business. Mm-hmm. Because they're just me, what's in it for me. And eventually everybody catches on and then it's game over, right? Whereas if a company's like, well, me and you, I'm going to take a little bit of a hit on this one, but you'll catch me up on the next round.
Right.
Right. And then that's what happens. They remember you. I get that phone call all the time from somebody's like, oh, like 3 years ago, you helped me do something. You didn't charge me anything. I think I'm ready to go now. Can we do some business together? I'm like, oh, sure. Come on. Let's talk. Let's see if it's appropriate for you.
Awesome. And you didn't have any kind of ulterior motive. You helped them. They came back. They acknowledged that you were of assistance, that you were, you built a relationship.
It's kind of what it looks like.
Right. Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up here. Okay. Sure. I am starving Marvin. I'm going to go take my buddy out for lunch because it's his birthday recently. So we're going to go grab some food. So Juan, Joe, thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We must keep in touch. Really looking forward to meeting in person. And thank you so much for sharing your crazy life story, your crazy upbringing. It's an incredible what you've taken.
Anytime.
Yeah. No, we'll talk more. We'll get to know each other more, and I look forward to it. So, incredible story. It's amazing how far you've come, and I wish you only more and more success in your life. Happiness, health first before anything. And thank you for sharing all the business knowledge. I've learned a lot. I hope everybody listening has made it this far and learned everything in the process. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, grandmothers and grandfathers, to subscribe to the channel. We are approximately 100 subscribers away from 1,000, so I can start to make that dough from YouTube. So subscribe, hit that subscribe. Yeah. That's what consistency does, baby. So subscribe, like, share, leave your comments, and till next time. Thanks again, man, for coming.
You good?
See ya.